Rebrand, rebrand, rejoin. These are the interesting times. Hello everyone, my name's Matt Johnston and welcome to The Interesting Times, a comedy show that looks and laughs at UK politics. So, Russell Brand has been demonetised on YouTube and had content removed from BBC and Channel 4 and certain people aren't happy with that.
Tom Sater, what do you make of that?
I think this is outrageous. I think that, to protest their innocence, someone should be able to continue to do their job, continue to make money, even if they're accused of the most heinous things.
No, he's not being found guilty of anything. There are no charges against him. So it's not for us, it's not for YouTube to be the judge and jury.
And some have even remembered Margaret Thatcher's words.
If you ever get trial by television or guilt by accusation, that day freedom dies.
Margaret Thatcher. That's right, Margaret Thatcher. Remembering Margaret Thatcher's words, we should not judge people before a court has done. So okay, well, first things first, YouTube is in fact a social media platform who rely on advertisers, the money if you like. They aren't publicly funded and advertisers do get a little nervous about where their advert is seen and associated with. Conversely, I'm not really a big fan of Nigel Farage advertising on my channel, but that comes with the territory. The one thing YouTube isn't is a news channel. This isn't a news show, which is how I'm able to get away with calling him a twat and her a fucknugget. It's a platform for people to put up cat, dog videos and compilations of people falling off skateboards and indeed anything else, and this is a point, within reason. And historical sexual assault accusations are without reason, let's be honest. And as more stuff comes out on the anti-vax goth cock, the more this looks like a smart move on behalf of the broadcasters and platforms. Honestly, it's getting to the point where it's becoming obvious to any old idiot.
But it is no surprise that he behaved the way he did, devoid of a moral compass, of an understanding of right and wrong. The cultural and moral vacuum he operated in has been exposed.
And he supported Johnson. Actually, he could be talking about Johnson. Never mind. That is as nothing compared to this very public bust-up between a man who's so much of a Tory boy that that's part of his Twitter handle, Andrew Pierce, and co-host and first person ever to find themselves literally and metaphorically to the right of him, while at the same time being the wrong side of him, Beverly Turner.
He would not have gained the popularity
as a woman, knowing that how difficult it is in this country. If all
of the mainstream media hadn't been singing from one non-scientific hymn sheet
all you've done is
for the last 3 years,
women. Shame on you.
Then all these people, all these newspapers that gave one side of the pandemic, he was the lone
it's now about
voice.
COVID again.
He can't be guilty of rape, as he's had some wacky COVID conspiracy theories. It's certainly an inventive legal defence. I mean, I imagine that 30 years ago, Beverly would have been saying, how can Jimmy Savile abuse those kids? He runs marathons. So you're probably thinking GB News is now the channel of empathy, and two Conservatives, one an MP and the other a journalist, are calling out immoral behaviour. Is it time to take a sobriety test? Well, fear not. For every two Conservatives talking rationally, there are three for who talking out their arse is an Olympic event. In bronze medal position, Andrea Jenkins with this little nugget of nonsense.
Oh, no, you cannot say that. She's actually been proven right with her economics, actually.
I think you'll find, actually, Liz Truss was proven right with her economics, actually. And in silver medal position, Suella Braverman, pandering to the masses of asses.
We pay the police to fight crime, whether that's a focus on antisocial behaviour, the nuisance bikers or burglaries, as he's mentioned. They are there to keep people safe, Mr. Speaker. We do not pay them to wave flags at parades, to dance with drag queens or to campaign.
What are you on about? Do you think the police have seen a robbery taking place and going, I'll deal with that in a minute. It's raining men, hallelujah, it's raining. For goodness sake, you do know that the most efficient way to police is by getting the public to work with you, right? As such, you need to be able to build bridges with communities. Proper bridges, you know, with safe concrete inside. Now, before we get to the top spot, some honourable mentions. Craig McKingley.
Well, I mean, we can have these broad debates about whether this works, whether this nudge into this type of technology that nobody wants works or not. Britain is 1% of global output of CO2.
Craig, a geography lesson. 195 countries in the world, maths lesson. Therefore, most countries on the planet are less than 1%. And biology lesson. Fuck off. So, on to the gold medal. And although there was a lot of competition, there could really only be one winner. Angela Richardson.
Spades are in the ground and the government is committed to delivering HS2.
This is rather what the minister did in the House earlier in the week. Is it going to Manchester? And people kept asking and he wouldn't confirm. Is it going to Manchester?
Well, I'd like to know what Labour Party's position is on HS2 and...
I'd also like to ask Labour what they're doing about the crumbling schools, the shit in the rivers and when they're going to call a general election. This is all clearly part of a concerted Conservative confidence trick. Act like they haven't been in power for the last 13 years, while Starmer's away, move the whole party onto the opposition benches, and when he comes back, start calling him Inaction Man. Yes, that theory sounds ridiculous, but I've run out of other explanations, and trust me, I've tried. This is Andrea Jenkins when it was pointed out about Sunak's likely watering down of his net zero targets.
What did the Labour government actually do in this area? You know, they was in power for, more than a decade. So.
And Lord Robert Goodwill using up a lot of it by defending the Tories' record on immigration by not mentioning it.
The government says the asylum system is broken. You're in charge. You have been for 13 years. You've broken the system, haven't you?
Well, we've been fought on every front by the Labour Party who...
OK, well, it's clear the Conservative Party is finally fed up with the Conservative Party as the rest of the country is. Took you long enough. Oscar Wilde once said, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. Well, here is someone making an assumption. Lord Sumption, making an ass of himself. Really.
To put it bluntly, would you advocate us getting out?
I hoped for a number of years that the Strasbourg court would become more sensitive to the implications of its decisions on democratic societies like ours. There is no sign of that happening. So rather reluctantly, I think we should leave.
One is that we would lose human rights if we did that.
This is actually nonsense, if I may say so. Most of the rights in the Convention have been part of English law for a long time, and those that haven't can be enacted by ordinary domestic legislation in the UK. We can actually have whatever rights we want by domestic law if there's a sufficient democratic mandate for them.
Yes, handing over power to UK politicians. What could possibly go wrong? This could go wrong. An independent report has stated that the UK needs constitutional reform in the wake of what has been described as Boris Johnson's testing of established boundaries. Well, that's one way of putting it. It concluded Boris Johnson's attempt to prorogue Parliament, disregard for the ministerial code, willingness to break the law while in office, and misleading of Parliament were all examples of a Prime Minister who, in the words of his Cabinet Secretary, believed he had a mandate to test established boundaries. That's one in the eye for those that said he never did anything. Also, former fly-by-night leader of the country, Liz Truss, who's on a mission to reinvent Liz Truss. Can't think of a better candidate for a makeover.
I do want to challenge this phrase, crash the economy. I just think you are repeating a line to take from the Labour Party.
OK, what line would you rather have? Tank the economy, smash the economy, broke the economy, push the economy down the stairs?
And taking economic lessons from Liz Truss is like taking lessons in international diplomacy from Kim Jong-un.
Or lessons on Brexit by David Frost. The point is that this blend of blonde boneheads is proof, if proof were needed, that we do need some sort of check, even if it's only to lock the door to number 10. OK, yeah, that could work.
To keep this metaphor going, she talked about getting the pig ready for market taking to slaughter. This is the woman who's now telling porkies about why she didn't bring home the bacon.
Wow. Hey, Liz, how'd you like them apples?
It's a big debate about what are the Conservative Party going to be after they've lost the next election.
But Farage has already got a jump on the Conservatives in the losing stakes, as the FCA has looked into his being debanked at Coutts and decided there was no suggestion it was to do with his political leanings. Is there any way that this could become more delicious?
FCA report finds no evidence of banks closing accounts for political leanings. Well, frankly, I didn't know really whether to laugh or to cry.
Oh, I do.
Well, I could give you a list as long as your arm of people who've been debanked because of their political views and associations. Let's begin, of course, with the founder and organiser of Leave.eu, Arron Banks and Andy Wigmore.
The good news just keeps on coming.
Just want to show you a couple of pictures of the people that now run the FCA.
Why would he show us a picture?
And here he is. He is the CEO of the Financial Conduct Authority, and he and the executive director, Sheldon Mills, that run the Financial Conduct Authority.
I wonder what Nigel Farage doesn't like about these two. Still, at least they didn't blame it on Labour.
Basically an exercise of the establishment protecting its own. I mean, Mr. Rathie, Nicola Rathie, I think, if I remember correctly, was private secretary to Gordon Brown.
Oh, come on! So what about Keir Starmer? Prime Minister in everything but name. Well, following on from the success? Sure. Of the immigration debate, Starmer obviously thought, what the hell? In for a penny, in for l'euro. He was visiting French President Emmanuel Macron for a friendly sit-down chat. And maybe have a look at that whole Brexit agreement. Yes, the one we signed, but we don't like it very much. Could we just maybe get a better deal? Mon ami? EU sources seem to say not, or nine. But all this sucking up or negotiation with the EU, depending on which side of reality you are. Just saying, French spies aren't working as parliamentary researchers. But could there be another agenda on the table?
So he's blatantly laying the groundwork for us to rejoin the EU.
He seems to, in the past, have called for a second referendum. Now he wants to go the full distance.
Coming from a man who's always been a starry-eyed Europhile, he was, of course, the champion of the second referendum.
Beach Ken, more like Normandy, Norman. Starmer, it seems, has not only met the French, but seen the Poles. And that's it. No time to talk about some unseed footage of Boris Johnson just before the UK left the EU.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Gone. Freedom of movement. Gone. Standing in the world, gone. 3% of GDP, gone. And while that was quite the party, this was the morning after the referendum. Yep, the hangover part 4. Go does a line of coke out of an orangutan's arse. Boris Johnson gets a face tattoo of a pair of balls on his forehead, which always has to be covered up by his hair. And Nigel Farage is in France and can't get home as he doesn't have a bank account. No time to talk about prime ministers and their favourite songs and artists.
Dancing Queen, you've got to go with Theresa May.
Well, that's absolutely right. Dancing Queen, Theresa May. Great song. Great song.
I'll have a stab at Brown Eyed Girl for David Cameron.
Actually, Boris Johnson.
And what about Rishi Sunak?
Ice Ice Baby, though, Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, this is apparently
I'm not sure that's the look that he's going for.
Oh, I've no doubt that's exactly the look he was going for. Vanilla Ice has to be Rishi Sunak's second favourite rap star after Roland Rat. Of course, if Rishi did have a rap name, it would be TDSD, Smalley Smalls, or LL Dul J. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you are enjoying these vids, then feel free to like, subscribe, comment and share, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.